I'm just going to wait for the reset of the counter here. Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about has spitefulness and petty behaviour on the basis of moral relativism, has it replaced contracts and agreements? Not simply in business, although primarily that, I guess, but agreements between businesses or people. And it could be anything from the marriage contract to agreeing with a next door neighbour about the height of the fence you're both going to share expenses in, and so on. So I'm going to talk about a few instances here, but to indicate how moral relativism has crept into dealings at all levels, and certainly in courts of law, how decision making is made there, and the process is relying less and less on facts and any known reality, and more on woke-ism and the values of woke-ism, and of course the moral relativism that goes with woke-ism. I'll just talk about a few examples here, and some involve employers being petty and spiteful to employees, and others, neighbours and so on. So I'm going to talk generally here, but we'll talk about each of those instances, then come back and talk generally about it. But it appears, certainly to me, that I've been around for a little bit, that what once were parties getting together, and it could be in business or anything, parties getting in and say, okay, let's agree on how we're going to move forward. Let's agree on the rules. Let's agree on what we're both sort of satisfied with, and then let's move forward. Now, at times, the other party may come back and say, well, look, I know I agreed to such and such, but hey, my circumstances have changed. It was unforeseeable. And can we modify the agreement to reflect the changed circumstances? And, most people, and I was among them, go, yeah, sure. I mean, it's better to have an agreement that both people support and want to live with, rather than have one that one party feels hard done by, or, they're being screwed over or something like that. But has that gone? I'm certainly noticing, and in business dealings, among other things, that when an agreement or a contract no longer suits one party, for whatever the reason, just they're bored with it, or they can't be bothered, or don't care, or it could be anything, not a real reason, just that I don't want to abide by that anymore. It just doesn't suit me. A very casual sort of relationship with the agreement, and so rather than pay the compensation that's enshrined in the contract or the agreement, they'll try and wriggle out by saying, you're a racist, you're a bigot, or you tried to rape little Susie, and so they'll try and turn it into a moral argument where they have some sort of morally superior high ground, which gives them the right to ditch the agreement. Now, of course, it's all a fantasy. They've made it all up, but that hardly matters. They're just trying to wriggle out, and they'll say whatever they have to get out of it. Now, there were always those sort of people around, but I came across them quite rarely. They were there, but I came across them rarely. But today, it's a challenge to go through even a week without coming across people like that. Now, I'm active in business, so I'm more likely to see that than, say, someone who isn't. But nonetheless, so I'll talk about a few. Now, here's one here. The employment agreement, if I can call it that, with this company, and I know the owner, the owner, he's one of the major shareholders, or his family is. Now, his family's worth over $100 million, so he's, they buy him effectively. They buy him prestigious jobs around town. The guy's a bit of an idiot, really, but he's had gone to the very best schools. He's got a blue ribbon MBA. He's had it all. He's had an excellent education and has always been brought up in situations of money. Now, he's in the employment agreement with employees in his company, there's like an employee of the month type thing, and the employee of the month gets a gift, or they get a choice of gifts. You know, they get, I don't know, a home gym, a set of golf clubs, or a pretty fancy fishing kit, fishing rod and all the bits, and good quality. Or I think another one was like a push bike, but a really expensive one, carbon frame worth thousands of dollars. So these are prizes worth getting, and so employee of the month wins it. And I don't know how the employee of the month picked. Maybe it's some sort of performance criteria, who knows? But whatever it was, they decided arbitrarily to rescind the gift. For example, it was golf clubs, I think. Now the guy who got the golf clubs, well, he already had them, and he'd taken them home, played golf with them, that sort of thing. So this guy, the CEO, decides he's going to personally get involved in this, and he's one of these guys who thinks he's a real genius in building morale, staff morale, employee morale. He's got some special gift there, or so he believes, and this gift giving employee of the month is sort of his brainchild. So he's quite involved in it, down at the small detail or low detail, the minutiae. Anyway, they decide that the guy who got it somehow didn't deserve it, or shouldn't have got it, or they made some error in their assessment, or something happened. I think maybe the guy had done something which, so they decided, we don't really like him that much, and we don't want him to have the gift. It seemed rather spiteful and petty, and I happened to bump into the guy in a coffee shop. Hey, hi, and so we were sitting down having a chat, and I noticed the legal brief in his hand, or like a court thing. So he just pointed out, I'm going to court because the next employee of mine was given a gift, and I'm going to go to court to. I don't have to pay a lawyer. I don't want to waste money on lawyers. So wait a minute, here's a guy where your family's worth over $100 million. Your annual salary is $3.5 million, and you're going to go to court, represent yourself on behalf of the company. The CEO is going to go to court to do battle with now a former employee because you want to get back his golf clubs. I mean, you're kidding me, right? Oh no, it's not right, and it sets a bad example. To the other employees, if we let him get away with it, get away with what? I mean, you've already given him the golf clubs, for Christ's sake. So, and I was really surprised that he was that petty and spiteful, this multi-gazillionaire, to go after a guy who's not on a big salary, and summons the guy to court. To argue about who gets the golf clubs. It's insane, but there he was, off to later on that day or the next day, whatever it was, to go to court. Now, if anyone's ever been to the sort of courts that hear this, you can be standing around the court all day, waiting for your case to be called. If other cases, if there's a backlog of cases, or some cases get heard more slowly and will take longer than anticipated. So the court starts at, for example, 10 o'clock. You can be there. Closes at say 4:30. You can be there at 3, 4 o'clock before your case is heard. Sometimes it rolls into the next day. So the CEO of the company is going to sit in the courtroom all day to get back a set of golf clubs. And I told him he was crazy. I mean, don't do it. I mean, just forget it. I mean, the golf clubs are gone. It doesn't matter. Craft a narrative internally if it's that important to you, and change the policy, or change how the selection is made, or do take the corrective action there. But the issue isn't, you don't go chasing some low-level guy through the court system as the CEO, you personally are going to represent. I mean, that's utter insanity. But he was sort of all caught up on, and someone who'd lost sight of the big picture and so on. And he really thought he was doing something good. He was standing up for he was representing high moral standards, and he was the purveyor of high moral standards. Now he's the sort of guy, by the way, the CEO, who talks about mass migration is a wonderful thing and the Green New Deal and wow, and he's totally on board with the woke project, and he makes sure that in the reception area of the company that there's only gay, lesbian, or gay guys, but actually I think it's all gay guys, and they have a special allowance to like wear makeup and have gay-looking haircuts and that sort of stuff, and so that sort of guy he is. So that's one. Now, here's another sort of spiteful thing. Again, someone who's completely on board with the woke, saying eager to call out everyone else as being a Nazi, but now he employs people on, and this is not a huge company. There's maybe, I don't know, 250 employees or something, but he employs people with very vague employment contracts, and he prides himself on this, that these employment contracts are so vague it allows him to somersault in and out of anything he chooses, to get rid of them, to do anything he wants with them, whilst ostensibly having a meaningful employee contract. Now, he makes a point of hiring low IQ people, and he prides himself on that, his ability to pick low IQ people who can be manipulated and terrorized and stood over and threatened and that sort of stuff. He kind of gets away with it from what I can tell most of the time, but he'll introduce if he wants to get rid of someone, he'll introduce a sort of a secondary employment contract, and he'll insist that they sign it. Now, if they do sign it, then it's even sort of more waffly and vague than the other one, which gives him more leeway to get rid of them. But if they don't sign it, he then argues that the employment agreement is invalid. There is no agreement because they didn't sign it, and therefore he doesn't have to pay them any of the severance pay that legally he's required to. Now, from what he prides himself, and he's able to bamboozle most people, and they'll just walk away. The odd one or two will go chasing after him through the courts, whatever, or the employment tribunals, that sort of thing. And he shrugs his shoulders and says, "Well, that's just a price that's worth paying. For only 1 in 10 will chase him, which means he gets away with 9 out of 10. So to him, it's good economics. But the way he deceptively sets out to do it now, after he's been chased and they're about to drag him through the courts, he'll pay up on the courtroom steps. So they've got the legal cost of chasing him, and he's only paying what he was supposed to legally pay them anyway, but he's leaving it to the last minute, so they've gone through maximum drama. Now, he can spend all day in court, but he considers he's the winner and he outwitted them and got the better of them and that sort of thing. He sees it really as a contest of wits rather than just a straightforward transaction. But I tried to sort of quiz him. Well, if you've got I know the guy. If you've got an agreement, then why not make the agreement workable? And if you owe them the money, just pay them. No, why should I do that? And he's a huge supporter of bringing out masses of peasants to come and work, which depress wages and give him a steady supply of simple-minded labour that he can exploit in these sort of ways. And I'm assuming that this exploitation of people is widespread. I mean, it's almost second nature to this guy, just reflex. He just that's how things are done. I mean, why would you do it any other way? Anyone that pays these workers what they're supposed to be paid by law is a mug and an idiot, and he's not going to be a mug and an idiot. But again, the idea that you would do that, or that you would deliberately have these waffly bullshit contracts just so you can evade the legal responsibilities. Now, again, a clued up person who goes after him, but he makes sure that he doesn't employ those sort of people. So every now and again, one will slip through the net and go and make a chase, and so he has to pay them. Now, here's another one, and not dissimilar sort of circumstances, but this guy who's again very well to do. He doesn't need to do this, but he CEO, and he's sort of a bit of a, I don't know, what do you call him, a bit of a, he has sort of tantrums on a regular basis, and he has these falling out with really some of the key people that work in his business and help him be successful. But he's got this thing about just suddenly having a fit of random arbitrary fit of pique and firing people and when he owes them quite a bit of money. So he's this time he doesn't get away with it. The people do take him to court, but the lengths he goes to avoid paying them are astonishing. So he owes a guy who's like due an annual bonus of, say, for example, $20,000. I think it was in that order anyway. And so what he does, the CEO does, is he just hopes they won't chase him and sue him. But this guy is. And this guy's not an idiot. He's going to come after it, every penny of it, plus damages and costs and all that sort of stuff. So he what he did is he registered a number of sort of dummy front companies, and got accountants to do it, and went through a whole sort of charade of effectively restructuring his organisation, and so he could move assets around within the organisation and then leave a shell company with nothing in it. So when the guy went to court and won, and the CEO was ordered by the court to pay up, but because of the shenanigans, which cost him way more than $20,000, by the way, because of these shenanigans, the shell company that was had to pay the money had no assets or anything in it, and so he didn't have to pay. He ended up not having to pay this guy. So the guy had gone through the court, paid lawyers, won the case, but wasn't going to get any money. And this CEO was telling me about it, and he was absolutely over the moon about how he'd outwitted this guy. And he said, you should have seen the look on his face when he saw he wasn't getting any money. He just couldn't believe it. He just looked and he knew he wasn't going to get a penny. And so I beat him. I outwitted him. I was smarter than him. He's giving me this stuff, and I'm listening to it thinking, why the fuck didn't you just pay him? You owed him the money, for goodness sakes. But to him, it's not that way. It's a contest of strength, test of strength, test of wills. Who's going to outwit who? Who's going to win? Who's going to come out on top? And so he had this sort of thing. But again, one of these people that fully supports the woke agenda. Let's bring in masses of low-wage peasant labour and all that sort of thing. And he's the first one to go running around offices saying, I saw one of my employees, and they had a postcard or a photograph of their girlfriend in a bathing costume, and I told them that wasn't acceptable. That's not acceptable in the workplace. And so he fusses and tears himself to pieces over things like that, but then goes out of his way and spends a fortune screwing everybody. So they don't get paid. So another one is this is a case of neighbours in a fence. Now the neighbours get together and so agree to pay half of the fence along the fence line, and everything's fine. Now when the fence guy comes to do the fence, one of the guys isn't there, but the other one is, and he's decided in the interim that he doesn't want the fence to be of the agreed height because it's going to reduce the light that comes into one of the rooms in his house, or so he believes. So, all right then, but instead of asking and talking about it, and he just tells the fencer to do it. So, and makes a few other height adjustments and length adjustments in the fence. So the fence isn't what the parties agreed to. So when the other guy who wasn't there comes back, he said, "What's this? This is not the fence we agreed to." So the other guy said, "Well, I decided I wanted something different." So no. Now it turns out that some of the materials had to be cut and changed, and new parts had to be gone and be brought in and so on. So it ended up, instead of, for example, $100, it cost $150 to do the fence. So the the other guy who wasn't there and who didn't want this said, "Look, I'll give you an option. Either we the fence, the fence has to come down, and we get the fence we agreed to, and you have to pay all of that, or we'll leave it as it is, so you don't have to meet any extra cost. But I'm only going to pay the half of what I agreed to," says the other guy. Now it was a fairly good deal, I guess. But the guy who'd wanted the changes and didn't consult the other neighbour, he said, "No, screw you. You have to pay the difference. So you have to pay more now to accommodate my new design of the fence that you never agreed to anyway." So the other guy said, "Well, no, I'm not doing that. But here's the half that I did agree to in the first place." So the guy who'd actually done the modifications without consulting decided to take the matter to court. Over that amount of money. You're kidding me. So the matter went to court over I don't know, $250, $300 or something like that. But when it came to court, and this is again how the law is changing to be woke and politically correct. The guy who'd ordered the changes turned up in clothes with holes in them and looking like he just got out of bed and looking like he was on the bones of his ass, but which wasn't true. He'd inherited quite a lot of money and was doing very nicely, thank you. But the other guy who was on his way to work was wearing a pretty sharp suit, and so the judge or the junior magistrate guy said to the guy in the suit, "Well, you look like you're doing all right. Why don't you just pay him? Why are you allowing it to get to court?" So the guy in the suit said, "Well, look, the other guy is brought it to court. So if you want to ask the question about who brought it to court, it's him, not me," says the dude in the suit. And then the judge says words to the effect of, "Well, you look like you've got plenty of money. I mean, well, just pay the other guy the money. I mean, that's it. I'm not going to rule in your favour." So, So the judge said, "Well, you look like you got more money, so you can pay it. I don't care about the merits of the case. I don't care about the facts. I don't care about anything. You're going to pay." So this was insane, but it's the sort of thing. Now, just looking at this in its totality, have agreements and contracts broken down? And it could be agreements between the people and the government. For example, the people say, "Well, the government has to comply with our wishes. We, the people, vote for them, and they have to take notice of our concerns." That contract is completely broken down. The globalists totally control all Western governments, and the agenda is set by the globalists, and whatever the people want is, who cares? And the idea of personal responsibility and these implicit contracts that are within civic society, have these all gone? And is this have these things disappeared completely? Will they ever come back? And is this moral relativism now a force that decides in effect everything? And now we shouldn't despair and say it's all over. I mean, the election in Italy shows that the game's not over yet, but we don't have cause for optimism generally. The globalists have an absolute stranglehold in the English-speaking world, an absolute stranglehold. Can that ever be shaken loose? And are there those anywhere who are prepared to stand up against it and turn back that tide? You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.